Hello! Welcome to another vlog. I don't know if this is going to be a weekend vlog, a little bit longer. I don't know if I might stick a timer on and do a time challenge. That is yet to be determined. But my plan for this vlog is Spookopoly chooses my tiny horror books, because I want to do a dedicated vlog for reading tiny horror, but I also want to play Spookopoly whilst it is Spookopoly season. So, I'm going to hope that whatever I roll for Spookopoly, I will be able to tailor into tiny horrors, because I'm really in the mood for tiny horrors. I've accumulated a few, I got some ebooks of a few, I've picked up a couple, and I want to read them whilst we're in the season. So, fingers crossed, this works. So, I'm going to be carrying on my Spookopoly rolls from where I ended last time I played it in the 4-day Spookopoly adventure vlog. I'm going to carry on from there. So I was on Cauldron. We are going to keep going around the board and tailor it to tiny horrors. If, for whatever reason, you don't know what Spookopoly is, Spookoplathon is Becca from Becca and the Books, spooky themed Bookopoly readathon. I will of course leave Becca linked down below. I have got my board on my iPad, I've got my dice and my little piece, so let's just crack on with it and do roll number 1 and pick our first book. Okay, here is our board. There is me over on Cauldron. Here is the dice. Let's go. 9. Let's see where that takes us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Community shelf. Let's get the cards. And they're not real cards. It's a list on my computer. So as I'm tailoring this for tiny horror, I have rejigged my card lists to be something that would apply to the tiny horror I have. So we are very much tailoring this to fit the vlog. But I have got 6 prompts, so let's look at a random number generator to pick one. There we go. Hello Google, 1 to 6. Generate. Did that even click? Generate. 6. And for number 6, we have got oldest. So the oldest tiny horror I have. And I'm thinking by publishing order. So let's see what that would be. I have listed out the tiny horrors that I have. There's not a great deal, but there's a good handful of them. And the oldest one I have on my Kindle is Sour Candy, which was published in 2017. I will just open this up on my Kindle. No, I was going to get the cover up on my Kindle. I'll just put a picture of it here. I forget I can do that in editing, and I'm like, I need to hold it for you. No, I don't. It's here. The cover is creepy with those antlers and stuff. This is a truly tiny horror. This is 84 pages long. It is a teeny novella about a man and his son, and everything about them seems a bit normal, other than the fact that maybe he has a lack of discipline and lets his son eat as much candy as he likes and set his own bedtimes, and there's no real discipline. But what no one knows is that Phil, the dad, is a prisoner, and that up until a few weeks ago and a chance encounter at a grocery store, he had never seen the child before in his life. You now know as much as I. This one was recommended to me by Beth from Booksnest. When I asked for tiny horror recommendations, she pulled this one out because it is the teeny tiniest. So I'm going to read this. And I'll probably just come back to you when I finished it, because it's tiny. Update time. We went to the pumpkin patch with Finn I did get a little bit of B-roll footage, so I hope you've seen that. But it was really cute, very wet, very muddy. As soon as we got there, it really started raining. And then it was just really muddy and we were slipping and sliding around and it was mucky. And Finn's normally not a fan of muckiness, but it was fun and we got some pumpkins and that was the whole point of the trip. And then I have come back and I have finished sour candy. But before we get into talking about sour candy, I would like to thank the sponsor of this vlog, Jadeyraereads. This right here is my Sirius light. This is my HD Sirius light. It is the floor standing one. They do a range of them. The floor standing ones, the HD, the desk ones. There's a range to pick from, but this is my HD light. Let me just flick it on for you. Ta-da! Obviously I don't need it right this moment because there is daylight, but what makes these Sirius lights quite so special is the daylight wavelength technology, which means that it replicates the daylight spectrum as close as is possible. So when it's not daylight, and I still want to read my book as if it was, this beauty is perfect for that. And it's got a little dimmer, so you can make it really bright, or a little bit dimmer depending on what you need, and I find this little thing very snazzy where you can like focus the beam of light or make it a little bit wider depending on what you need it for, and it's all super duper flexible and perfect for getting in just the right places for me to read in bed of a night time or wherever I take it around the house because I love it. I've had it for a while now and honestly, I adore it. Never thought I would be so passionate about lighting. But thank you very much to Jadeyraereads for sponsoring this video. And I do have a code for you as well to get £100 off one of the HD lights, and that code is JADE24. Not only does that get you £100 off one of these HD Sirius lights, but it also gets you free UK shipping as well. So handy dandy little code to have if you were thinking of getting your mitts on one of these. Honestly, I love it. I recommend. I will leave the link to them down below as well as the details to that code as well. Thank you very much to Jadeyraereads for sponsoring this video. And onwards with the little review of sour candy. It was quick. It was only like 80 pages or something silly. But I was compelled. I was intrigued, I was invested, and I have learnt that it is classed as cosmic horror because what happens is kind of out of this world, cannot be explained. If you explain it, you're just gonna sound insane. It is this otherworldly, unexplainable sort of horror. And I don't know if maybe that could be something that I could vibe with, because I like that, like, ambiguous, unexplainable, you never quite get an answer sort of read. And I did enjoy that. I do think it was just the right length, because I think if we had any more of it, like if it was a full-length novel, for example, I feel like I would have expected to at some point get answers. But in novella format, like, it's just vibes. And I quite liked it. There were unexplainable things. And in a way, you kind of want to say, well, the ending was incredibly not satisfying. Because like, it isn't an ending. But I like that. So I can understand why that would be frustrating to some people. But I quite enjoyed that vibe. Basically, what happens in this one is our main character, Phil, has never wanted children, does not particularly like children. Him and his ex-wife split up because he doesn't like children. Comes across a child in a grocery store and his life is forever changed because that child that he's just stumbled upon is now his. His whole life has been rewritten. He now has a creepy child and cannot eat anything other than sour candy. Hence the title, Sour Candy. And I won't tell you any more than that because it's a tiny book. If I tell you any more than that, it's just going to be spoilery, so we won't do that. But I enjoyed. I haven't run it through Corepile, but it gives me maybe like 4-star feels. I had a good time. I was compelled to keep reading it. Can't complain. I quite liked it. I feel like with it being so little though, there's not much I can tell you. So you'll just have to take my word for that the vibes were pretty good. And the ambiguity was strong, because I still don't know really what happened, other than sour candy and death. Anyway, that does mean we can now go and do the second roll and see what tiny horror I am moving on to next. So let's go do that. We are back here. We obviously left off on Community Shelf for that one. So next, 5, 6, that was a 1. That was on a 1 and I flicked it. I'm sorry. I hope you could see. It was on a 1 and then I tried to flick it over and it moved. But 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Highest rated. That should naturally be highest rated of my entire TBR, but as we're narrowing this down to tiny horror, what is the highest rated of the tiny horror I have? Let's find out. Decisions have been made. Average ratings have been calculated. Let me bring up my little list again. So the highest rated on my list is 1922 by Stephen King, with an average rating on Goodreads of 3.91. Now, I would like to explain how this didn't win for the previous prompt of oldest published, because it was first published in, I think it said 2010 or something, I don't know, but the edition I was looking at when I was looking at publishing dates was how it's since been republished as a single novella, because it was originally published in part of a short story collection, but I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at the book on its own. So really, this one should have won, or not won, it wasn't a competition, but should have been selected for oldest for the Community Shelf card, but it didn't. But it is now the highest rated of those on my list. So, that is what we're going to be reading. So, let's get on with that. My first ever Stephen King. I am scared. I don't know if I'm going to like this. I've never gravitated towards Stephen King, and there's always been something that kind of... I mean, I've never been much of a horror reader anyway, until, like, honestly, within the last couple of months, I've never considered myself a horror reader at all, and then within the last month or so, it seems to have started. But Stephen King, regardless of that, has always been an author that I've been like, ooh, probably never going to read that. Here we are. I'm reading my first Stephen King. I didn't see it coming, you didn't see it coming, or you did, because it's probably on the thumbnail. Knowing me, I will have put the book cover there, so maybe you did see it coming. But up until this moment, I didn't see it coming. So, here we go. 1922. I don't know what it's about, but it's a tiny Stephen King. So, I will probably update you about halfway through this one. It's a little bit longer than the previous one, and as I don't know anything about it, I will give you my thoughts when I'm about halfway, and we'll take it from there. Hi. It's not good news, friends. That kind of monster has lasted me 5 hours. It's not good, friends. It's not good, friends. It's not good news. It is not good news. Obviously, reading this one, I've already forgotten how far I got. 72 pages. I'm 72 pages into this, which is apparently 48%. And I wanted to DNF this 17 pages in. And I didn't, because I was 17 pages in. And I wanted to DNF this 35 pages in. And I didn't, because I was only 35 pages in. And I wanted to DNF this 60 pages in. But I'm on sprints, and I had like 10 minutes left of my sprint, so I thought, you know what, I'll just finish reading for the rest of this sprint. And now I'm 72 pages in. I am so bored. And I feel like maybe this isn't a true experiment for reading my first Stephen King book. Because surely it's better than this. Surely. This is so boring. Man kills wife. Well, starts off over a bloody land dispute. Wife inherits land from father. Husband is like, great, we've got a farm, we can merge our land. And she's like, no, we should sell and move to the city. And he's like, what? No, I'm a farmer. I want to stay here. And she's like, no, I want to move to the city. And he's like, well, I want to stay here. And they have a son, and the son also wants to stay on the farm. So the father and son, well, the father kind of encourages the son, and then they kill the wife. And then, like, rats start appearing, and like, are they being haunted by rats? No, you've just got a dead body, so of course rats are going to come around. It's just really boring. Like, so much of it's like, there's a lawyer that comes to see them, and there's the sheriff comes, but the sheriff's no good, and it's them just living their life on the farm after they've killed the wife and worrying about the rats, and it's just boring. I'm so bored. And I think this is maybe me starting to find out what I like in horror and what I don't. And I think maybe the gothic and the cosmic have worked out well for me. I have, of course, learned that Sour Candy is a cosmic horror. And then thinking about, like, The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, which I really liked, that I feel would fit in that cosmic horror genre. This just being, like, murder is boring to me. So maybe, like, just mundane. It's not mundane, because killers aren't mundane. Or are they? I don't know. But just, like, reality. I want something that is not real. Is not something you could find in reality. I don't want murderers. I don't want serial killers. Maybe that whole, like, slasher-y thing wouldn't be for me because it's mundane. I want something otherworldly, which is why maybe cosmic works for me. And gothic as well still kind of has that atmosphere of the ambiguous and unexplainable. Maybe there's an answer at the end, but, like, the vibe, you know? And this has no vibe. There's no vibe. I'm bored out of my mind. So yeah, about halfway through DNFing this one. So, for highly rated, this has gone terribly. And maybe Stephen King's not for me. Maybe I just need to try something else from Stephen King that fits more into what I like, but I'm not familiar enough with his works to know if that exists. But this is a miss. So, there we go. Moving on. Next roll. Let's see where we go for my next tiny horror. Okay, we are back again. Finn says hello. Right, so we were there. Let's see where we end up. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Future. I'm sure I had Future before when I was putting off. I don't think there's any of these that I'm putting off for Future. The whole point of this is that I want to read them all. How can I make this work? Let's think. I have decided to go for Graveyard Shift for this one. This is kind of difficult to think of something to fit for Future for the tiny horrors because they're all very new to me. So there's none that I've been putting off for a rainy day or just holding out to read at a later date. However, of the tiny horror that I have, I feel like this one probably holds the most risk of being put off for Future. Like, for example, I've got My Throat and Open Grave. I'm very much looking forward to that. I feel like I would naturally read that sooner. Come Closer, which was Gavin's recommendation. I'm excited to pick that up. I don't know what to think of it, but I'm excited to pick it up. So naturally, I think I would get to that one sooner. Whereas this one is more, well, one, it's an academic setting, so I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about that. So I'm not putting it off because I think I'm going to love it and therefore I'm procrastinating on it. I've not read from M.L. Rio before. M.L. Rio wrote If We Were Villains, right? Yes, If We Were Villains, which I have little interest in because I'm not into academia. So, me. But this one's had a lot of hype, and a gothic tale set at a graveyard with a group of misfits and an open grave sounds very intriguing. So, could be a hit, could be a miss, and therefore I think I'm more likely to put this one off for Future. Therefore, I'm gonna go for this one. Does that make sense? I hope so. This is tiny. They're all tiny. How many pages do we have in here? 100 and... not many. 123. Yes, 123 pages. So again, maybe I'll update you halfway. We'll see how it goes. But this is what's next. Okay, hi. It's been a few days. I was supposed to finish the graveyard shift on Sunday, and it's now Wednesday, and I've just finished the graveyard shift. It's been a busy few days. I've had lots of family stuff going on, and haven't had the time to read until now. But can report, have finished the graveyard shift. Let me pop my dust jacket back on. In hindsight, not horror. I think I was fooled by the way it was in the spooky book display section. Yeah. Tiny, yes. Kind of an unsettling subject matter-ish. Takes place in a graveyard. There is a mystery as there's an empty grave, and it sounds like it's going to be, I don't know, a bit more eerie and atmospheric than it was. And maybe this proves to me that Emma Rio maybe isn't for me. Too academic, too factual, too... We talk about the subject of the thing. We talk about the theory of the thing. We talk about the thing, but we don't actually see the thing. We don't experience the thing. We just talk about it like after the fact. We study it. We don't even study it. We kind of find out about, like, we do a little bit of research and find out something about it. It takes place over the course of one night. I think it starts at midnight. Midnight at the graveyard, yes, 12 AM. And each chapter has like the timestamp for how the night is progressing. And they find an empty grave at this graveyard that isn't really used anymore, but there's this freshly dug empty grave. What's the story? And it is about finding out what the story is, like why that's there, what it's for, and the things leading on from that. But it's very much got that like academic tone. It's telling us the facts of the story, but we don't ever actually like feel the story or witness the story. Like there wasn't anything spooky about this or unsettling about this. I don't think it necessarily fits in the reading tiny horror thing. So in hindsight, bad choice, but how was I to know? I didn't know. I picked it up from a section of a display of spooky books. It was titled like, oh, you like the darker things? With other spooky stuff. Like, how was I to know? And now I know. Rating wise, I think this can't get any more than a 3 from me. I haven't like run it through Corpile or anything. It can't get more than a 3 for me because I just didn't feel anything. Like I wanted to be unsettled and I wanted more of the subject, the thing. Obviously it's so tiny I can't tell you what the thing is, but I wanted more of... Hello. I wanted more of that and I didn't get that, so I was kind of disappointed. Unfortunate, but is what it is, and does mean that I'm now going to move on to my next role, which due to the time that it has taken me to get through this because of life, it's not the book's fault, it's life's fault. I think this next one may be our last one for this vlog, so let's do our last roll for our last tiny horror and see what we get. Okay, so that one was present, so that's where we were before. Let's see where we go next. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, community shelf. We're ending on a community shelf. Okay, so community shelf is the prompty one that we've actually already had once in this video. So we're going to do it again. Please focus. Focus. There we go. It's really not liking focusing on my computer screen. Ah, quick. 2. 2 is a physical book. Just to prove it, physical book is number 2. So let's have a look at what physical books I've got. Okay, so for a physical book, my options are actually pretty slim. And they would be My Throat, An Open Grave, and I've just read this one, which I now think wouldn't count. And in terms of physical tiny horror, that would be it, which would only leave me with My Throat, An Open Grave. However, I got a parcel today from Melissa. Thank you so much, Melissa. She has sent me The Salt Grows Heavy. I was talking about this because it's a tiny horror. And it didn't work out for Melissa, so she said she would send me her copy. And here it is. And it is a teeny tiny horror. So I'm quite excited about this, because that cover, horrifying. Horrifying. I don't know much about it, but I have heard that it is a bit gross. Feverishly gory is what it says on the front. I'm excited to give this a go. And I've just seen a little plague doctor looking thing in there. Myths are full of lies. This is not one of them. A mermaid and a plague doctor. A murderous hunt of blood and sacrifice deep in the woods, where the 3 who call themselves saints rule over them like gods. Trapped in a feverish nightmare of masked monsters, stitches and surgeons, and needle teeth, the mermaid must embrace all of her cruelty and hunger to free the children. Ooh. I'm very excited about this. And as it just came in the mail today, and when Melissa was talking about sending it to me, she was like, oh, I really hope it makes it to you in time for your tiny horror vlog, because she knew I was filming it. And now it's come up as a prompt. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to be reading this one, and it shouldn't take me too long. So hip hip hooray. Hello, funky angle, but just a quick note before I go to bed to say that I am over halfway through The Salt Grows Heavy right now. I'm on page 83, and I am confused but having a good time. I still can't get over this cover. Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand the story. I'm not sure I fully get what is going on, but I'm really enjoying the vibes. Like, I'm liking the folklore-y, fairy tale-y vibes, and how, I think it said it in the blurb about myths are full of lies. This is not one of them. Like how the fairy tales you hear are full of lies, and here is a darker, grimmer truth. But it's not like classic fairy tales. Yeah, I'm not sure I fully get it, but I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying the vibe of it, the atmosphere. It is a little bit gross with like body parts and stuff. Like, it is a little bit gory, but I'm liking it. So I will let you know when I've finished it what my final thoughts are, but I already get the impression that this is one that would be good on reread, just because I feel like I would understand more what's going on once I've already read the story and know the story. That's my feeling at the minute anyway. We'll see how I feel at the end, but yeah, I just wanted to give you that little update. I will come back to you when I have finished it, which will be tomorrow, because I'm going to sleep now. And it is the next morning. I did actually finish this in bed last night. I thought I would do the typical thing of take it to bed and then not finish it, and just fall asleep instead. But I did actually finish this in bed. Very gory, lots of body parts, lots of blood and guts and killing, and yeah, gory. But also, I very much liked the tone of this, like this I think I explained last night, this kind of fairy tale folklore-y vibe of like stories you've heard and them not being true. There's, you know, the myths are lies and the truth is darker and more sinister. I really liked that vibe of it. I fear I cannot tell you a great deal about this, again, because it's so tiny. I don't want to risk spoiling anything. But essentially, our mermaid is not a mermaid as you typically think of a mermaid. She was married to a king, and her kingdom has been destroyed. This world is just bodies and destruction and murder, and she is on a journey with a plague doctor. And they stumble upon a child being hunted by other children. And by hunted, I mean like they are trying to murder this child. They're hunting him like a pig. And they murder him. And our plague doctor is disturbed by this and thinks that these children are murderers. And they're like, no, we're going to take this part of his body back to where we came from. And our saints are gonna bring him back to life. He'll be good as new. Don't worry, this is just a game. And then the plague doctor and the mermaid go back to the children's village and meet the saints and discover what's going on there. And our mermaid likes to eat people. Bloody, gory, gutsy, kind of whimsical at the same time. Weird combination. But I actually really liked this. Fairy tale meets love sonnet. Gory and grotesquely beautiful. I get it. I get that blurb. I quite liked this. I'm going to give this one a 4-star. I do think that this would be a very good reread, because for most of it I didn't really understand what was going on with this story, and now I know how it ends. I think rereading it, it would make more sense. So I might reread this one again in years to come. I'm not going to reread it anytime immediately soon, but I do think a reread would be good for it. But yeah, 4 stars for this one. And that does bring us to the end of the tiny horror vlog. I realise I've only read 4. I really wanted to do more than 4 tiny horrors. I would have loved to have done a lot more than that, but life happened. So we've had Sour Candy, A Bad Time with Stephen King, Graveyard Shift, and The Salt Grows Heavy. If I had to rank them, Salt Grows Heavy, Sour Candy, Graveyard Shift, Stephen King. Should I try another Stephen King at some point in my life? Probably. I probably will, but I think I need to find one that's a bit more suited to what I'm learning that I like, and it's the slightly otherworldly. Maybe magical isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you've had fun. I've enjoyed experimenting with a little bit more horror. I definitely am, like, finding my style, finding what I like in the genre, and I'm looking forward to exploring more. So yeah, I hope you've had fun. I've had fun. Thank you once again to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video. And I shall see you in whatever comes next. Bye!